أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Dear viewers to the show, think about it. As always, if you like the content of the show and you think that we're giving you something worth your time, and inshallah always remember to, if you can, tell us what you'd like us to cover and we'll do our research on our part. But do remember to hit the subscribe button, inshallah. So today's topic is one that requires quite a bit of attention, and unfortunately it doesn't really get that attention. In fact, it's belittled most of the time. I would like to start off with a story, as we always do, and this story should be an eye-opener for some of you, and inshallah, especially with the younger generation, I hope that you guys can take away something important from this show. So our story is about a young boy by the name of Wasim. Now, Wasim grows up in a family where his father and mother expect him to be his utmost best and be a high achiever wherever he goes and with whatever he does. And so in school, when Wasim would get a B grade or a C grade, he would get scolded at from his father and his mother. They tell him that, oh, you didn't get a good grade? What have you done? You're wasting our time. You're wasting our efforts. Even if they paid for it, then you're wasting our money. And these are things that are quite common in quite a few countries with quite a few cultures, where if a child goes to school to study, and there are a variety of subjects, obviously when you're in school time, then you're learning all different scopes, whether it be mathematics, science, languages, something to do with workshops and extracurricular activities, whatever there might be in school. You're learning a variety of subjects, business, social sciences, so on and so forth. When you're learning all of these subjects, obviously, we all have an interest. I do. I'm pretty sure kids at home right now, you have some subjects that you like, some that you don't. Some courses you enjoy, some you don't. Some courses you might not enjoy, but you have a good teacher. Some courses you might actually like, but you don't have a very good teacher who does justice with it. All of these things affect our motivation and our performance. It's not that you're any less than anyone else. So, back to Wasim. He didn't get the marks in every single subject. He liked math, he liked science, he wasn't that good with languages. He wasn't that good with social science. And so whenever he would come home with a grade that was less than an A, his father would chew him out. Chew him out would mean scold him, tell him that they're wasting his time, and tell him that he's a waste of space, and sometimes even abuse him. And sometimes families do that. Unfortunately, it's a truth that needs to be said. Sometimes parents stress their children out too much because of their expectations. It's not bad to have expectations to those parents. I'm a parent myself of 3. It's not bad to have expectations. But how much are you going to push your children for those expectations? Grade 12, senior year. Wasim is trying to choose what university to go to. He wants to do engineering. He goes to university, looks at different campuses, comes home, tells his dad that this is the university I want to go to when I finish my senior year. His dad says, we'll think about it, we'll have a look. They're looking around. His dad gets really angry at him because he got a B in mathematics. Very, very furious with Wasim. And Wasim doesn't understand what to do. And Wasim's father says that if you don't pick up this grade, I'm going to show you. It's not going to be good. Sometimes parents go overboard with the kinds of threats that they might make, even though they're making these threats out of love. They expect their child to be perfect in everything. Unfortunately, that's not a reality. It's not realistic to assume that every single human being is going to be perfect at everything. If you're a surgeon, you're a doctor, a neurosurgeon, one of the best in the world, I can't expect you to come and fix a sink, a toilet, or become an engineer or do construction. It doesn't make sense. Everybody has a skill. Everyone does. And that's no doubt about it. To tap into that skill, to understand it, to let it develop is another thing altogether. So Wasim goes to school, works hard throughout the semester, tries to bring his grade up. He brought his math grade up to an A. Unfortunately, his science one fell down to a C. Now, living in a world where you're supposed to please your parents, living in a world where there are consequences on every single corner, living in a world of fear. Because of his C, it's not a pass or it's not a fail, it's a pass. But Wasim was so scared, he couldn't face his father or his mother. The young man committed suicide. There's a take-home message from this. If your child comes home with a report card, you see quite visibly that there's some subjects that your child excels in, enjoys. Praise them for that. If they get less of a mark in something else, don't make that be the benchmark for them. Don't compare that grade to everything else. Not all hope is lost. There's so many people who were not good at school, especially the standardized schooling, the arbitrary system. Who made these grades? The Ministry of Education? Who asked them to make it? Where did these schemes come from? Where did these policies come from? What is acceptable in society? What if I don't agree to that criteria? But we're so focused on making sure that we meet this criteria, this standard, that we bend over to the system, that we let the system dictate to us. If your child comes home with even an A in a single subject, that means that child has a potential in that subject, in that course, in that scope. Praise them for that. Don't berate them and belittle them based on other things. It's not about head counts. It's about heart counts. What does your child enjoy doing? As a teacher, I understand that when I walk into a classroom full of students, whether the strength be 5, 10, 20, or 200, there are going to be students in the course that will excel. There are going to be those students who are at the average, and there are going to be students who are below average. That's been the formula since the beginning of time in any classroom. A teacher's responsibility is to know that those students who enjoy the subject, those students who have a keen interest in it, you cater to them, you challenge them whenever you can, they have discussions with you in class, emerging knowledge comes out, you cater to that. That's wonderful. But a teacher also understands that there's some students, it's not that they lack any skill or that they're any less. It's just that they might not have interest in that subject. They might not understand it. For those students, teachers are supposed to make sure that they have mechanisms or strategies or methodologies in which those students can get through the course. They're not aiming for an A. They're aiming to get through it so they could pursue what they feel they're interested in. If there's a student in my sociology class, I'm teaching anthropology, psychology, and sociology. If there's a student in my APS class that I know doesn't have an aptitude for APS, doesn't mean that that child is, for the lack of all the words that people use, stupid. No. No. It just means that the child might not be interested in that subject. Maybe that child doesn't want to become a psychiatrist when they grow up. How many of us studied APS when we were in high school and when we were in middle school? These are new phenomena, new subjects that used to be introduced in university, and now they're brought here. Mathematical equations, being able to do your taxes, different things. The entire curriculum changing right now in 2020 and 2021 after COVID. Asking children to do banking and understanding what interest is and all these things. They didn't exist when we were younger. They do now. If a child has an aptitude for it, it makes sense for them to pursue it and actually focus a lot on it. If they don't have an aptitude, the main course and the main highlight and the aim is to make sure that they at least understand it. And if they understand it, they can move forward. And that's what our aim is supposed to be. But quite sadly, these are not just parents, even teachers at times taunt students, make fun of them. I don't understand why though. Was every single teacher right now today, every single teacher in every single country, in every single school, a straight A student, they topped their school? Are you telling me that every single teacher out there was number one in their class? That right now that they can sit down and belittle and berate a student? It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't. Because believe it or not every teacher got first place in class. I didn't. So at the end of the day, when we become teachers, when we become educators, when we're parents, when we're responsible, when we're accountable, when we're supposed to show empathy. We have a leadership role. A teacher has a leadership role. They can either do justice with it or injustice. A parent, you have children. You're in a leadership role. They're looking at you. They listen to what you say. They measure things up to what you say. You're in a leadership role. You can do justice or injustice. Both of these things go together. But for the life of me, what I don't understand is that the story of Wasim, a young boy committing suicide because he couldn't face his parents. Not because he failed, but because he couldn't live up to and get a grade in a subject he was not interested in. There's so many stories like this around the world, whether you be from developing countries or developed countries. The idea of taking breaks from university, taking a semester off, a leave of absence due to stress and depression, these things didn't exist in the past. They do now. Is because, yes, it's true that our society has become competitive. But it doesn't mean that if it's becoming competitive, you go and indulge in the competition every single time. Be competitive where you know you have an interest. Be competitive where you know you have a scope. If it's something that's not going to affect your life, if it's something that doesn't have an interest, understand it. Get through it. Don't make it into a purpose of your life and let it preoccupy your mind that you couldn't do it or you could do it. And these are the issues that we face. And from this, I'll take out a small story again of a teacher. A teacher walks into class with a $100 bill, shows it to all the students, and asks them, "What is this?" And the students respond, they say, "It's $100. What value does it have?" $100. This teacher takes the $100 bill and crumples it, wrinkles it up, and says, "What value does it have now?" The students say it has $100. The teacher throws it on the table and bangs on it, punches it, and says, "What value does it have now?" Students say it has $100, a value of $100. The teacher takes it, puts it on the floor, and stomps on it, kicks it, and says, "What value does it have now?" And the students respond the same. It's $100. Remember that. Regardless of what people say to you, regardless of what people might think, we're not born to please everybody in this world. We are born with talent and skill. It phases and fades out because of the competition in our life, because of the stresses that we have actually taken upon ourselves. Never let anybody tell you that you're less valuable, because you're not. In fact, you are invaluable. You're indescribably invaluable. Every single person is. And you are one of them. It doesn't matter what your age is. It doesn't matter what your gender is. It doesn't matter what your race is. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. You are valuable. And never let anybody tell you anything differently. We're going to come back from a break, and inshallah, we're going to discuss this a bit more. Stay tuned. Think about it.
Foods, now open in Barhaven area, Ottawa. Pick up or dine in. Also available on Uber Eats, Skip the Dishes, and DoorDash.
GTA का सबसे ज्यादा देखा जाने वाला टीवी चैनल आवाज इंटरटेनमेंट के साथ मिलकर बनाए आपके बिजनेस को और भी बेहतर। हम आपके कंपनी या बिजनेस को एक अनोखे अंदाज में पेश करेंगे जिससे आपके बिजनेस में और ज्यादा इजाफा होगा। हमारे फेसबुक, यूट्यूब और वेबसाइट को रोजाना लाखों लोग देखते हैं। हमारे पास हर किसी के एडवर्टाइजमेंट की जरूरत के हिसाब से पैकेज अवेलेबल हैं। आज ही 4167869809 पर कॉल करें और अपना एडवर्टाइजमेंट बुक कराएं। आवाज इंटरटेनमेंट, आवाज आपकी, चैनल हमारा। जुड़िए हमसे।
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to the show. Think about it. As always, please remember, if you enjoy the content of the show, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also, recommend to us what you'd like to hear about. We'll do our best to do our research on it, and inshallah, we'll present it with the best of ability that we have. And inshallah, we'll do justice with it. Moving on, today we're talking about self-esteem. We talked about a story of a young man named Wasim, and how, because of certain pressures in his life, him not doing well at school caused him to commit suicide. Wasim is not the only story that's like this. We already have enough issues in this world. We already have enough atrocities happening. We already have enough competition and stress to deal with. Why are we putting our children through the same? Why are teachers putting their students through the same? Why are people comparing one another? There is no comparison. Not everybody is perfect at every single subject. Not everybody's perfect at every single course that they study. In school, you learn a variety of courses and subjects. When you grow older and you go to university, you pick one that you're interested in. Maybe you didn't study it at school. Maybe you didn't study law at school and you're interested in law. Maybe you didn't study botany at school, but you're interested in plants and you study that at university. But point is that you go to university and then you learn a discipline focused towards it. And you develop a skill within that discipline. So at school, when there are a variety of subjects and you so happen not do good at one or two of them, it's not something that speaks about your character or who you are. You are still a talented person. You are still worth it. You are still valuable. But our self-esteem takes a hit because people say things. And if you want to talk about that, then let's look at Einstein. Albert Einstein. I don't think there's a single person of my generation, the younger generation, or the generations that are older than us that don't know who Albert Einstein is. A great mathematician, a great physicist, right? Somebody who came up with E equals MC squared. Somebody who people used to go to and ask for advice when it came to education, educational systems. Somebody who I think has won the Nobel Prize as well. A man who was educated, well-read, literate. People who dream to be like Einstein. If today Einstein walks into a university, they would open a red carpet welcome for him. This is the same Einstein who was kicked out of school. The same Einstein who was told that he wasn't good, who was told that he was pathetic, who was told that he was stupid. That Einstein went on to become a great mathematician and a physicist. That Einstein went on to become the principal of the very school that kicked him out. So no, today's standards, arbitrary things, man-made, don't depict human character. They're not measured correctly. I'm sorry. You cannot measure someone's intelligence. IQ tests, they don't measure someone's intelligence. They measure certain questions that certain people put up. Records that are built in sports, they're broken, aren't they? We had Shahid Afridi who had the fastest century in 1996, 1997. 2000, I don't know, 13, 14, or 15, the record was broken. And it was broken again a month later by another player. Records are meant to be broken. If you're measuring the fastest thing or the greatest thing by a certain number, you're measuring it with something that's arbitrary, man-made. Guess what? We're not man-made. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us. We're God-made. We're creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're put onto this world to go through it because it's a test. We're put onto this world to see how our characters are. Whether we do justice, whether we pray, whether we follow the beautiful teachings of our religion. Not indulge in competition, not indulge in belittling people. But we let these things get to us. And that's the saddest part. In fact, we preoccupy our minds with what people say. I'll give you an example. In fact, a scenario. Imagine that you get a phone call one day from a bank. and they say that you have won the grand prize. Every single day, you can come to the bank and withdraw $86,400. That's amazing, isn't it? You go the first day, you withdraw your $86,400, you go buy a brand new car. You go the next day, you get some money, you put a down payment on a house. You go the next day, you get some money, you buy something else. You travel, you go around, you spend your money. You feel as though you have so much. You feel all of a sudden as though a huge weight has been lifted off your shoulders. You feel as though the world is yours. After a couple of weeks, you go to the bank, nobody opens up. And they tell you, oh, sorry, we're done. You won the prize, but we're done now. That's it. You all have, and including me, have 86,400 seconds a day. That's how many seconds there are in a day. All of these seconds are no less than $1 each. We all have the ability to enjoy our life. We all have the ability to go and get new experiences. Granted, you have pandemics and issues happening around the world. There are always going to be issues. What are you doing in your capacity that you enjoy doing, that you think will help you and benefit you? Yes, there are days when we're lazy and we don't want to do anything. That's natural. Everybody has those days. Einstein had those days. Isaac Newton has those days. Justin Trudeau has those days. I'm pretty sure Donald Trump and Joe Biden have those days too. When it comes down to it, we're humans. We have thresholds. We have elastic limits. So at the end of the day, what we're looking at is basically, how are we spending our time? Do we respect ourselves enough? When every child is born, when any child is born, all right, what do? They only ask for what they need. They cry when they're hungry. They cry when they have to, when they've gone, they've ruined their diaper and they need a change. They cry when they feel hot or cold. They cry when they're sleepy. And the parents are expected to cater to that. When a child grows up and becomes a toddler, a child is looking around and enjoying their world and trying to get into it. They listen to what their parents are saying. They copy them and mirror them. They're enjoying themselves. A personality starts growing. You're eating food and your child says, no, I don't want to eat rice today. I want to eat pasta. I want to eat noodles. I want to eat chicken sandwiches or burgers, something like that. All of these things are decisions that a child is making. At the age of 1.5, 2, 3, that is self-esteem. Because a child doesn't know that other people expect something from the child. The child is just living their life with the people that they love, people around them, people that the child has grown comfortable with. And that's their world. And they're loving their world. And they grow up slowly but easily. They get mesmerized by things. Then you go to school. First, the teacher is everything for you. You make a couple of friends. You understand that they have different households, maybe different things that they do, a different culture. You start learning a little bit from there. You can get mesmerized by it. You could refrain from it as well. It's not your flavor, not your color. But as we grow older, the only difference that happens is that a lot of perspectives are introduced in our lives. And when those perspectives are introduced in our lives, we start questioning things. It's not bad to question things. Even the Quran says, أَفَلَا تَتَفَكِّرُونَ أَفَلَا تَأْكِلُونَ أَفَلَا تَبْشِرُونَ. Do you not think? Do you not wonder? Do you not see? Do you not feel? All those things are there. It's all well and valid. But when you start doing so, feeling as though you're a victim, when you start doing so, feeling as though you don't fit in, that's where the problem is. If you look at every single prophet's story, from the time of Adam alayhi salam all the way to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, all of the prophets were not really people who fit into society. They challenged the status quo. That's what a leader does. They brought Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's message with them. And through that, something beautiful came out. If these are examples for us to follow, if the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a role model for us to follow, then what are we doing in today's world? By following standards every single time, by letting policies get to us, by comparing kids, by comparing people, by comparing our own lives with another person's life, Not only are we taking more stress, but we're losing self-esteem. We're losing respect for ourselves because we don't have time to think about ourselves. With that, there's only one thing I can tell every single viewer and people who are not even viewing this. If you have the capacity, you're meeting people outside, you have friends, and you're watching this show, tell them. Don't tell them that you saw this in this show. We don't want credit for this, okay? There's no need for credit for this. Tell them that they're worth something. They are valuable. Every single human being is. And if somebody tells you you aren't, somebody tells you you don't fit in, somebody makes you feel less of yourself, guess what? That person is not worth your time, is not worth your effort. There are a variety of ways people can deal with that. I don't want to be somebody who gives you advice on how to deal with it. I'm just here to tell you that it's their loss. They don't know how great you are. They don't know about this heart that you have. Use your imagination. Think of big things that you want to do. Think of things within scopes and subjects that you like. Pursue them. If you don't do good at a subject, it's not leave everything alone. It's understand it at least. If you go to class and you're attending a course that you say that, oh, you know what? I don't like this course. I don't understand it. I'm not going to pursue it in the future. I'm studying business, but it doesn't mean anything to me. Fine. That's okay. But for the sake of the course, for the sake of your education, for the sake of understanding at least how the world works, you don't have to be a banker, but all of us have bank accounts. We all have to open bank accounts. We have to know how credit cards work. We have to know the concept of credit and debit. You don't have to be a banker for it. You don't have to be good with numbers for it, but you need to understand it. Think of it like that. Understand it and move forward. Understand it and try to get by. But the subjects that do appeal to you, do whatever you can. Give it your all. Make it something. See something for yourself in the future over there. That's the only advice anybody should ever give you. It's not about getting the most out of you. Getting the most out of something is squeezing a towel. That's not it. It's how to get you to perform at your natural best. And that's the only way it should be. If we gave you something to think about today, if we gave you another perspective, if you got to introspect, that means you're thinking about it. And if you are thinking about it, hit the subscribe button. Thank you very much for tuning in. Inshallah, see you guys next time. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Think about it.